Emergency housing is a symptom of the dysfunction at the heart of our housing market. It exists because for 30 years we've made it too difficult to build houses in this country. So we just need to be really clear about that. There's a really clear linkage internationally. There's a really clear linkage internationally. There's a really clear linkage internationally between countries that allow abundant land supply and have a functional housing market and homelessness. To give you the most extreme example, everyone thinks about San Francisco as this like bastion of of liberalism and socialism and all the rest of it. Everyone thinks San Francisco is amazing. San Francisco has one of the most restrictive zoning codes in the Western world, and it also has mass street homelessness. So fixing our housing market, emergency housing and making sure it's available is an important part of it. So is social housing, so is affordable rentals, which the government has a range of programs underway on, because there will always be a part of the market. The point I'm making is that we have to fix the fundamentals, and that is going to take time. If we fix the fundamentals of our housing market, there will be lower house prices and lower rents over time, and that will do more to end homelessness in this country. Yeah, which is why we've got to continue to support them, and there is support available. But we've got to fix the fundamentals. That's what we're focused on as a government. Different regions have different needs, different peoples and different cohorts have different needs and also expectations. And the housing system has not been particularly good at taking into account regional need and taking into account particular cohort identification and actions. There has been quite a bit of funneling money into the system, just kind of chasing targets and hoping for the best. Actually, what we need to do is be much more particular about what we're building and where we're building. To give just an obvious way of proving that, 50% of people on the register need a one-bedroom unit. I think it's actually 60%. 60% of people on the social housing register need a one-bedroom unit. They don't need a lot. They just need a one-bedroom unit. Indeed. They need a granny flat. Those are sometimes two bedrooms. 70 square metres, big. But a 30 square metre one would be all good. They just need a one-bedroom unit. That's 60% of the register. The register's about 20,000 applicants. 60% of them need a one-bedroom unit. Queenstown's stock, 12% of it is one bedroom. So, go figure. How does that work? Queenstown owns all these big houses up and down the country, often in the wrong place, often uneconomic to develop, often on big sections, with a big front and a big backyard, totally inefficient and uneconomic use of land. And so actually you could do a lot more with that land, but if you also re-tilt the housing system and the funding towards a more place-based, particular, some people call it active purchasing, you could achieve a lot more with the same amount of money. So we are really focused on value for money, and that is an important part of it. So it's a work in progress. We're not there yet, going through quite an exercise and quite a policy process to get there. As a government, we spend about $5 billion a year on housing support. There are a multiplicity of programs. Some of them have been mentioned by Minister Potaka tonight, but there's the other ones we haven't mentioned all the way up the housing supply food chain. And so we're going through a bit of an exercise to work out what works really well and what doesn't work really well, because we don't have unlimited resources, and we do need to get fixated on driving value for money and increasing supply and also social support for those who need it. So we're going through a bit of a process, more to say in due course. We do want to see efficiencies through the system and driving down those build costs. Members will be aware of some sort of notable examples of very expensive houses built by Queenstown. There's the $1.4 million apartments in Auckland. There's been a variety of examples that local MPs will be able to think of. There'll be a variety of examples that people will be able to think of. Ultimately, social housing is a super important role to play in New Zealand, but I think people expect the units to be efficiently delivered, effectively delivered, on time, and with a real clear focus on value for money. They also expect the land, the very extensive land holdings that Queenstown owns up and down the country, to be used economically and efficiently. And so they have started a process of targeted divestment of some sites and some areas. all of the funds that are freed up from divestment of those areas will be put into new housing, and you will expect to see changes, and some of that will play out. One of the things we've asked them to do is very much focus on what they own now and make sure that if they don't need it, it's available for somebody else who might want to build on it. So again, bit of a work in progress on this one, still going through it. There's sites that Kāinga Ora own that they've owned for 20 years that they have just sat on and never built on. Now that is an inefficient and uneconomic use of Crown capital. Somebody else would happily build on that land, including, for example, a community housing provider often, and so we're going through a bit of a process there. So look, it's a work in progress. Turnaround plan was endorsed in well, essentially December, announced in January. We're now in April, a bit of a way to go. Well, Queenstown has some unique challenges around housing, and the best thing that Queenstown could do is let its city grow. Kāinga Ora doesn't have a presence in Queenstown. The Queenstown Community Housing Trust has a presence in Queenstown. Fire Julie does an excellent job down there. But the most fundamental problem with Queenstown is they have a housing market with the highest house prices in the country, on average, I think 13 or 14 times average household incomes. 14 says Joseph, and Julie does a fantastic job down there, but she's struggling against a market that makes it very difficult to build. And I'm not saying anything publicly. I haven't told the mayor, and in fact told the local media down there as well, which is that Queenstown went through a plan change from memory. Queenstown went through a draft plan change, and they freed up additional capacity of 14 houses. 14 houses. I think I'm right in saying it might have been 15. But it was in the double figures rather than the triple. Whereas in reality, they actually need an absolute bucket load more houses. And the crazy thing is down there. The crazy thing is down there. You have plenty of land, and you have plenty of developers who want to go out and build. And it's very frustrating. So they got a range of land supply challenges. They've also got infrastructure funding challenges, which we're going to sort for them. And this is my overall point, which is that it's all a system. Queenstown has people living by the lake and people living in cars in Queenstown, often the people who are servicing the wealthy tourists who come to Queenstown because it's a fantastic place to play. They have people like that, and I went down there 2 years ago when the same people were there. They have those problems because the city has not been able to grow. This is my point. When cities can't grow, you end up with sky-high prices, sky-high rental prices. People who are the workers in these towns can't afford to get into the rental market in the first place. There's a limited supply of social housing there for a large number of different reasons. And so as a result, you have real entrenched deprivation. This is my point. You have to sort the fundamentals. And that is what this government is focused on.